Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about diet culture in film and TV. This is a very interesting topic as I grew up during the early 2000s as a child, so I was exposed to a lot of diet culture, specifically with things like Girls Next Door, America's Next Top Model. All of those reality shows really shaped my brain. I thought that we would talk about a couple different examples of diet culture. Starting off with an 80s TV show. This is a sitcom called Growing Pains. This show started during 1985, and it's just your typical sitcom about a family. It's kind of like the Brady Bunch, but a little less wholesome. It just covers the teenagers and like the stupid plot lines, like, oh, they're hormonal and she's dating boys now, that sort of vibe. So there was an actress on this TV show called Tracy Golds. And Tracy Golds is a big example of what happens when you have such excessive diet culture in TV. So she played the daughter, Carol, who is in high school. And one of the big plot points about Carol was that she was a straight A student, an honor student, really academically gifted, but she gets made fun of a lot for her looks, specifically her weight, which is insane. I'm gonna put a picture here of what she looked like during the show when it started out. And so her two brothers are pretty much made to make fat jokes constantly about her. And this is very triggering for Tracy Gold because she has a strong history of having anorexia, and she was actually diagnosed at the age of 11, which is when she started to get into show business. So since she had already had this diagnosis of anorexia, combined with the constant fat jokes on the sitcom, she ended up getting worse and worse and falling deeper into her disorder. And so what had happened when she started being on this TV show is she got significantly skinnier as you go through the seasons, because being on the show just made her 20 times more insecure and 20 times more worried about her weight. So a couple seasons go by and she has suddenly dropped a significant amount of weight. She goes from 133 to 110, and it's extremely noticeable for the audiences watching. Now, they tried to kind of work it into the storyline and like have her be very insecure in the TV show. Like her character looks in a mirror and she sees a very distorted image. But the problem is that she was so unhealthy at this point that viewers were very, very concerned. So they suspended her from the show, which I think is so ridiculous. Not ridiculous in the fact that they wanted her to get healthy, but ridiculous in the fact that they fat shamed her constantly and then suspended her from the show for suddenly dropping too much weight. Like, what exactly did you think would happen when you were writing those fat jokes in? After this, Tracy Gold got help, and now she's recovered from her eating disorder. I mean, you can never fully recover, but she's mostly recovered and healthy at this point in her life. But it took her years to try to battle this, and she said that show business was one of the things that completely distorted her mindset. And I'm sure being on Growing Pains didn't help. I'm sure Kirk Cameron, which I hate the Cameron family, I'm sure that he had to play into it somehow, because I heard a lot of rumors about him just making fun of her on set, and he was a big part of why she got suspended on the show. So yeah, Tracy Gold is an example of what could happen when you're writing in certain jokes that are very uncomfortable, especially to someone who already has an eating disorder. Next up, I wanted to talk about the cast of Friends. This is more of a famously known case of diet culture. So specifically with Jennifer Aniston, when she first started out in Hollywood, her agent pretty much told her to lose 20 to 30 pounds if she wanted to make it. And of course, after she lost the weight, she ended up getting her role of Rachel as Friends, which is literally one of the most popular sitcoms on air of all time. And the way she lost this 30 pounds was going on Nutrisystem. Now, Nutrisystem was a popular thing in the 90s. It's essentially like Weight Watchers, where they assign you a diet and you have to follow each different day, and they'll give you specific foods and everything. It's kind of a dumb system. I think that all those diet systems are kind of dumb. I think that there's better ways to diet if you want to lose weight. But yeah, she ended up going on Nutrisystem, and that's how she lost the weight. And then once she was on Friends, she felt like she had to maintain her very slim figure. And if you look at Jennifer Aniston in Friends, she is mad skinny. Like, she has not an ounce of body fat, which is kind of crazy every time I watch that show. And one of the craziest parts about this is kind of an infamous thing that Courtney Cox, Jennifer Aniston, and Lisa Kudrow have said, is that they all ate the same salad every single day at lunch together. Which I can't imagine filming for super long hours. Like, sometimes sitcoms can film for up to like 16 hours a day. I can't imagine just having a little salad for lunch to fuel me for the rest of my electing day. This salad was made of bulgur wheat, chickpeas, cucumbers, pistachios, and feta cheese. And that's, well, and lettuce. And that's essentially what this salad was that they ate every single day. And I mean, it sounds kind of appealing, but like, where's the protein? Where is anything that could sustain you? Where are some carbs? I'm gonna need more than that to get through my day. But yeah, they ate this every single day. And both Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox have said that they had an hour and a half to an hour 45 minutes of exercise each day, and they would both exercise on an empty stomach, so they wouldn't eat breakfast, and then they would do like intensive cardio and stuff. And all three of them were also smokers, so that helped maintain their weight. Would not recommend that. That's a horrible method. But that was essentially what they did every day to maintain their figures. And they are really, really skinny, especially if you jump from season 1 to some of the later seasons. Specifically with Courtney Cox, you could tell that she has lost a significant amount of weight, except for when she was pregnant in real life. You could tell that they really weren't eating much, and they were exercising above the amount of calories that they were even eating. They were probably burning off more calories than they were actually consuming. So that was a very concerning part about the TV show Friends. I feel like there's so much pressure on all three actresses to maintain a certain look, but I feel like the guys didn't really experience that pressure to look a certain way, which is very, very common, especially in the 90s. And specifically with Lisa Kudrow, she has said that she was made to feel like the fat one, and compared to Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston, because she was on the taller side, she was made to be like the bigger one. And that's literally only because she was taller. I mean, you could see in the show that Lisa Kudrow is extremely skinny. They're all beautiful women. So the fact that they made her feel like the fat one is absolutely absurd to me. Very questionable behavior on the producers to say that. Next up is an example that I actually ran into recently and inspired this video. And this is an episode of King of Queens. So if you haven't seen the show, it's essentially just a sitcom about a married couple from the early 2000s. It has Kevin James in it. It's like the typical, it reminds me of like the George Lopez show, where it's like, there's the husband and he's overweight and funny, and then there's the really hot wife. For some reason that was really popular in the early 2000s. But there was an episode in season 1, this is episode 2, it's called Fat City. Huh? That name is absurd. And the plot line is that the husband, played by Kevin James, Doug, he sees a picture of his wife's mom, an old family photo, and he sees that the wife's mom is a little overweight, and he starts to be very concerned that his wife, Carrie, will suddenly pack on the pounds like her mom did in the childhood photo. And so he starts to see their future of like, oh my God, my wife's gonna get fat, which, so what? But it's crazy to me because if you've seen this show, Doug himself is overweight. And he is bombarding Carrie throughout the entire episode to go on a diet so that she doesn't get fat. It's just crazy to me. Like, if you look at Carrie, I'm gonna put a picture here, but this is a hot, sexy woman. This woman doesn't need to lose any weight. She's probably not gonna get fat. And even if she does, like, who cares? And yeah, that's essentially the whole episode. And then he realizes, oh, maybe that's a little mean. Maybe I shouldn't keep calling my wife fat and giving her an eating disorder. But that is just an example of one of the many sitcoms where the focus for the female character, specifically the character of the wife, is always on her looks. It's always on, well, she's the hot wife and she keeps the house clean and she maintains her figure while he makes snarky jokes that are always targeted towards her. Like, he's always such a douchebag and she's always fantastic. And you're just watching this like, oh my, please get a divorce. Like, I need you to get a divorce because your husband is terrible. I could think of a million different sitcoms where this happens. It just boggled my mind when I was watching the episode that this was happening and that he was actually insulting her looks. Like, go get a mirror, buddy. I'm not saying Kevin James is ugly. He didn't write this. I actually think Kevin James is quite cute, but this is just based on his character in the sitcom. So next up, we have a specific example that really haunts me from my childhood, and this is Jessica Simpson and her infamous mom jeans. This is what they called them while they posted in the media. I remember seeing this back in the day on Perez Hilton. If you know what Perez Hilton is, you know it was this snarky blog by someone named Perez, and he sucked. He was super mean. He was horrible to all these women. I really felt awful reading the headlines, but I used to read it a lot as a child. And I remember they posted this big picture of Jessica Simpson. Here's the image right here, wearing these jeans. And this was her little comeback moment because she decided to have a concert during this time. And this was after she had given birth. So, I mean, obviously she wasn't as skinny as she had previously been. But the problem is that Jessica Simpson had done the movie The Dukes of Hazzard a few years prior, and she was in the best shape of her life. Jessica Simpson in The Dukes of Hazzard is like the most lean, crazy physique I've seen. I remember watching that movie as a kid and I was like, I want to look like that. But let's be real, I will never look like that. I eat too much chocolate for that. But yeah, since people were so used to Jessica Simpson being so fit and lean, when they saw this new picture, they said horrible things about her. They called her a whale. They called her just a bunch of different names, and they told her that her jeans were really unflattering and that she needed to get back into shape and be sexy again, which is absurd because she looks amazing in those jeans. And I remember when I was a child, this just shows that these things can distort your viewpoint. I actually thought she did look a little chubby, but that's crazy to me because I look at it now and she is nowhere near chubby. Like, I'm pretty sure I wear the same pant size as her. So it's just crazy to me that people were being so mean to her. Even I remember my dad said a comment about her like looking a little fluffier, and it really affected me at the time because I was like, well, if she's considered fat, then what am I going to be considered? Like, am I chubby? This is just an example of the media absolutely tearing apart women's bodies. This still happens to this day, and unfortunately, I think that diet culture is only going to get worse from here on out. I see it a lot recently on social media with the use of Ozempic, and mostly people who don't need Ozempic using it, really skinny influencers. And I feel like we're kind of going back into that weird early 2000s mindset of like being thinner is better, which is unfortunate because I really loved the body positive movement and I really hope that it continues. But yeah, diet culture in film and TV, specifically in the early 2000s, was a monster. I'm sure it gave a lot of women eating disorders at the time. I know that it really affected my mindset as a child, and it took me a while to get out of that. Media shapes our thoughts, and if we're constantly being bombarded with skinny women being called fat, we're gonna think that we're fat ourselves. So, huge problem. I thought that this was an interesting topic. Let me know what you guys think about this. If you grew up during this time period, how did it affect your mind? Did it shape your viewpoints as a young adult or a child, whatever age you were during that time? And where do you think we're headed with diet culture? Because I'm curious if people are kind of seeing the same trends that I am. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I have a lot of videos coming out, a lot of very interesting topics that I'm going to be discussing. So please hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on post notifications, whatever you gotta do to make sure you see my videos. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye guys.